Campbell's Comments New Zealand show is back for another week, proudly brought to you by NZB Standardbreds. Of course, raising the standard in standardbred auctioning. Woodlands Stud, great sponsors of Campbell's Comments, and provide some of the best jackets you can wear. And Yabby Dam Farms and Haras de Trotteurs, of course, the French connection with the trotting stallions. And I'm joined today by Cam Bray. Hello, Cam.
Paul, it's great to be back on your great show.
You got a lovely camera there. Have you got a new camera, or is that a new haircut you've got?
A bit of both, mate. A wee bit of both, yeah.
Any truth to the rumour about this bit of caffeine going into the hair?
I have actually tried the new caffeine shampoo. It's working wonders, really. This time last week I had nothing.
It's a great story about Gavin Lang one day. It's a cracker. And it's safe for here, but it's...
You should have a go on it.
Mate, I'm flying. I'm blown. It's all gone, so don't you worry about that. Big couple of weeks in New Zealand harness racing. Firstly, very quickly, I capped off last week. I had a chat with Luke Whitaker. Great to see a young man getting a Group 1 success there in New Zealand. But one of the things I found very interesting, mate, from his interview, there was a lot of fanfare about the young blokes leaving the industry and leaving, New Zealand for Australia and other shores, and that you judge there that he won't be long in Australia, and he's going to be heading back to help Dad out and help in New Zealand, which is a good thing, and probably a little bit of a reality check that it's not a matter of just heading over to Australia and making a great success out of it.
Well, I think they go over there just because of the size of the industry, just that you get a wee bit more opportunity than possibly what they do here, because, albeit we have quite a good juniors program, we only get one race a night and bits and pieces, and I think the way the concession thing works over there with juniors just probably works just slightly, gives them a wee bit more opportunity.
Yeah, it does, but as I said, there was a lot of fanfare from a few people saying, all these people leaving. No place like home, mate. Doesn't matter where home is, people always want to gravitate back there. So.
Oh yeah, exactly, and I think there's plenty of opportunities within the New Zealand industry. It's just good for some guys to go away and get some experience too. It looks easy on the outset, but the reality of doing anything like being in business, it's not quite like that sometimes. So. He'll have a great support structure back here in New Zealand, and he's doing a good job in Australia too. So it's good to see someone who's achieving, wanting to turn around and come home, and can see the want to come home.
Absolutely. Got a few little topics we're going to touch off on. Some nice horses here in Australia making some waves, actually. A 2-year-old towards the end of the show I will give a big rap for. I think it's doing a huge job, and a couple of nice wins at Bendigo just the other day. But just very, very quickly, well, not very quickly, Cam, but Blue September, I see harness racing do a great job at promoting the industry, these sort of charities and these awarenesses very, very well. New Zealand have already got on the front foot with Blue September, although it's only a month away now, I suppose. It seemed like a long time away when you were talking July, but got a guest speaker coming. We want people to get involved in that, but do a very unique thing in New Zealand. You have an all-male race through Blue September, which I love.
Well, actually, we had a Banks Furniture, as you know, tied up out there, and we're going to have 2 male-only drivers races, which seems a dirty thing to say, but in reality now it's a bit like a juniors. It's almost a novelty to have a male-only race.
Yeah, it is a bit of fun, and that's what these things are about, raising awareness for prostate cancer. We've got to be aware of that that's the whole idea of these, is to get people to sit up and say there is cancer. If you can contribute in any way, do. But at the end of the day, raise awareness and encourage men to get checked out, if you like, and go from there. So it's a really, really good cause. Contact Harness Racing New Zealand. All the details were there on the screen, and they are back there. Doesn't have. Just go to NZB NZ/Blue September it is. The website's right down the bottom, harnessracingnewzealand.co.nz/Blue September, and you will find that it's very small, Cam. When you're looking at it, you'll be like, what's he doing? But it is there, and it's very, very small. Nice little win during the week. And you said this lady actually watches our show, so we will have to be very, very careful. But I love how Harness Racing New Zealand put up the milestones, mate. And Anne-Marie Best bringing up 50 wins.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's great for Anne-Marie and the team. they've got a Greater Wee Association. Not long ago, took the move from Blenheim down to Christchurch. So I think it'll just be a wee bit closer to the family, etc. Jack, her son, very heavily involved in the Mark Jones stable. So, no, great people, and it's great to see these people getting great achievements. So it's good.
Yeah, it is indeed. And I seriously mean that. I think the way these guys in New Zealand promote the people that hit milestones, because milestones are great, and we've got to be able to catch from Stacey Towers here in Australia. She drove her 100th winner yesterday. You won't see a lot of fanfare about that, but I think it's a great achievement for a journeyman. Like, she does a good job. She's raising some kids, trains a small team. Hats off New Zealand. You're leading the way in that. We're a breeding show, mate. We're here to raise awareness. Don't raise awareness. We're here to promote all facets of the industry. But you guys got your breeding seminar this week. Starting this week, I mean.
Yeah, the stallion launch. Yeah, so I think it's Sunday at Addington Raceways, the Christchurch version of. Then I think we moved down to Invercargill on Tuesday, and then follows up with Cambridge on Thursday night. So, yeah, there'll be quite a few different stallions on offer and a lot of presentations. So it's a great time of year. The stallion book's out, and you talk to people throughout the year, and I don't know if I'll go again, etc., etc. As soon as they get that book and we start going to these sort of things, people, get fired up, and it's an integral part of what we do,
I find it interesting over here, not exactly the same thing. Last month, no one wants to breed. You give one more week here in Victoria where the weather starts just to turn and people start mowing the lawns, and you get that little bit of grass clippings around, and people, they just start talking breeding and they get caught up in it, which is great.
Yeah, it is, and it's how we survive in this game, isn't it? You got to have product, and it's a bit of a changing landscape here in New Zealand, because we're not going to have quite as many stallions domiciled here in New Zealand. So that's going to bring some new sets of challenges, etc., for people. But nonetheless, it's we've got to have them, and there is some incentives on their way from the governing body. They tell me they've signed off last week at their recent board meeting a significant wedge of money to go towards some incentives. It'll just be how that money's spent, and I think there's going to be a wee committee organised they've had about 10 or a dozen different things put to them. It's going to just basically drill down into those and come up with some positives and negatives, and try and use the money probably the wisely, the way it's going to have the most impact,
There's two ways I could go just there, but we'll stick to the stallions just for the minute. Lazarus, last week's book getting closed, albeit being a restricted book, is good for the industry, though. That means that they've hit a number that people are still supporting him, so that's a good thing. Don't fool ourselves that it means he's got 200 horses or anything like that, but it's good that he's reached a mark where they're happy and they've closed the book with him.
Yeah, and I think there's actually a reasonably significant wait list now too. So. And albeit there might be 200, but there's definitely more than 100, if you know what I mean. I think they just, he possibly has had a few things go on, so I think that's just more of a management tool rather than anything,
Yep. No, definitely, and it is very, very good. And while we're on that, for any of the Kiwis there that may not know, like Woodlands is celebrating their 30th year this year, and yeah, they're great sponsors of mine and supporters, but for the New Zealand guys, be aware, down by the seaside and Sweet Lou are fully booked here in Australia, and almost fully booked in 2024, because we have stallion caps of 150. So if you're not sure who to breed to and you want to send your horse through the NZB sales, there'll be a lot of Aussies keenly chasing either of those two stallions. And also American Ideal, I believe, is almost full. So future-proofing yourself or trying to set for a market in a year or two's time, you cannot get the Sweet Lou's, and I think he's up to 28 individual 2-year-old winners over here. Like, people love them now. It's funny how the tide turns in the space of about 15 months, isn't it, Cam? But they love them over here. So for people wanting to put their horses through the NZB sale, have a look at those sorts of things. When books get full, you guys got a huge opportunity, because we can't. There's nothing they can do here in Australia. They're closed shops. So good way to get a Sweet Lou if you sell one.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the restricted service does then bring into play the old supply and demand, which Yeah, it has a massive impact. Yeah, exactly. So we're very, very blessed at the moment, probably with the group of stallions we've got. Albeit, the old fella there, the king himself, betters sort of been indicated that there's not too many years left for him. But in saying that, you have stallions like your Lazaruses and the down by the seasides of the world, and there's a lot of talk about Captain Crunch and how they sold here at the Wing sale as well. Like there's a number of young stallions that are all standing up, so it's great to see and long may it continue.
Better's a lot. You don't have to promote him in any way, but there was 10 races, 3 trot races. He had 15 runners on a Metropolitan card at Bendigo on Saturday night. Not bad going, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's very, very good. Very good going. I was just going to actually, while you're talking to me, I got some numbers yesterday came through of actually. Because obviously our sales have now have closed, so I've got some numbers here that...
I was going to bring that up, but yep.
Doesn't matter.
I did have a run sheet, but that's fine. It closed. So your sale dates, I didn't do a slide for that. I'm very sorry, Cam, but we will get one next time. Your sale dates for the 2023 season are Feb 19 through to Feb 22, sorry?
Yes, 22, yeah, and bearing in mind that 17 is the Harness Million Race Night in Auckland for those that are coming out. That's going to be a big night just to kick off that weekend.
How did you? So you were looking something up there? Did I give you enough time, Cam?
Yeah, no. So we got numbers. We've ended up with about 430 odd horses, and that's split about 300 down here in Christchurch and 130 or 40 in Auckland, 130 odd in Auckland, and close to 300 here in the south. And when we start looking at size, we've got lots of always. Mickey's been well represented here. Better's Delight's probably got one of his bigger crops than he's had in recent years. Captain Crunch is well supported. Treacherous is well supported. So there's some, and I'll go down and have a look. Where is he? Down by the seaside. Yeah, he's got 20 odd in the sale. So yeah, there's a number of horses by those great young guys.
You and I will be doing plenty around that. I'm going to be in New Zealand a couple of times, probably before Christmas, hopefully, and just after Christmas as well. So we'll be bringing as much of that. So any person out there, this camera's playing up. It drives me nuts. I just got to swap cameras, Cam. All of a sudden, it's been as good as gold, and it just decided to go on the fritz just then. But that's all right. We'll be out there promoting them. So
to be fair, you need everything going in your favour too, don't you?
No rocks, no glass. What is it? No mirrors in your house. Yeah, it'll be fine. So I just wear the hats. Good hat.
Don't take the hat off.
Anyone notice the hats behind? Cam Bray's already picked up that I didn't have an NZB one in the picture shot. They will rotate. I've set them up so I can rotate. So don't panic. It's just try something different. If you want to get your product out there, you can see the Brecken Farms. Well, you can't see the Brecken Farms one. It's over my ear just there. So there's there's a. Oh, I've got to go the wrong way, Cam. There's a good New Zealand contingent up there in the top two with Regan Todd's racing there alongside of him, and the Woodlands one. So anyway, that's something for another day. While we're talking about sales and that, Cam,
poor old Tim.
He's there somewhere. Timmy's there.
He'll be unhappy. He's way down the bottom, poor old Timmy.
No, I know where he is. He'll be fine. Timmy White, he gets involved every week with the on loose slides. Don't worry about that. Gavel House, while we're going, and have definitely built a tile for this. So go to Gavel House. You go all the W's, standardbred.gavelhouse.com. Sorry, to go to the website. 14 lots, I think I counted. No, 16 lots. Sorry, Cam, and arranged 16. From weanlings, broodmares, a couple of tried horses as well.
Yep. Yeah. So what have we got there? We've got 4 weanlings, and they're by there's a colt by Crunch. There's a Captain Treacherous filly, another Crunch filly, an Imperial Count filly. Look, Jesus, they're going good too. They're Imperial Counts. We've got a yearling there by Vincent. We've got some unraced horses there. We've got a racehorse and Roscoe Trouble. And then we've got a few broodmares, which you'd say 50-50. Well, no, actually probably more than that, are in foal. Quite a number of trotting mares there. So, yeah, there's plenty on offer this week, or this fortnight. It closes tomorrow night at 7 o'clock NZ time. So it'll be the 5 o'clock over your way.
5 o'clock Aussie, so make sure you get involved in that and go from there. most of the politics came just very quickly. The New Zealand Cup's been put to bed. It'll stay the same this year. Fair to say it'll be open for discussion probably after the race as to whether they put it back to a handicap or have it straight at. If nothing else, it's put the race out there in people's eyes that it's going to be run in the second Tuesday in November, and people are well and truly aware of it. Whether that's the marketing ploy behind it, I don't know. It's very smart if that is, because it hasn't cost anyone anything and people are talking about it. It might be a good way to attract a few Aussies over, mate.
Well, a fella here in New Zealand, he's actually running for the Auckland Mayoralty, Leo Malloy, he's got a wee bit to do with harness racing. He's always said that good news or bad news is still news. So you're right, but I understand the situation. I think it's probably that common sense might have prevailed, to be fair, but it has highlighted probably some of those free-for-all races now that were, pinnacle races. For them to stay a pinnacle race, they're going to have to change. I personally believe, because that sort of horse, there's not enough of them now, and it will highlight probably when the field comes out. Really, this argument will come back up again, I believe, when you see the current field, or when you see that field in its final field format. But again, I think, to be fair to all connections, you couldn't turn around with a couple of 3 months to that race and turn around and say, well, what you thought you were getting your horse set for a free-for-all condition start, just turn around and chuck it as a handicap. That possibly is a little bit tough, but yep. I think now everyone goes into the following season thinking that if I do win the New Zealand Cup, there is a very likely chance I could get at least a 10-metre handicap.
It's quite interesting over here with, you say any news is good news, and that the amount of people that jumped on the bandwagon as far as the media and wanted to make this a bit of a highlight, and some of the silly things I heard people say about the race and their knowledge of it, I think was crazy. So, yep, any news is good news, but please make sure people understand exactly what they're talking about before they bang on too much, because you can go to race.
Yeah, it can. And to be fair, that it does highlight, we here in New Zealand do think that this is the greatest race in Australasia, and there's probably a pretty close argument it is, but it probably is the greatest staying race in Australasia now. I wouldn't necessarily tag it as the greatest race. And in certain media circles believe that, we were changing it from a mobile back to a handicap stand. And that just probably does show here in New Zealand how it is perceived in other parts of the world, that someone didn't actually know it was a stand start. That it actually was going to potentially go from a mobile back to a handicap start. So that is probably the sad reality of what we're actually dealing with. But in saying that, it is a great race. It'll continue to be a great race. It's now probably the only 2-mile feature for the Pacers over a stand. And there's been some fantastic history, and it will continue to have some fantastic history, providing we can move with the times.
Might be the sort of thing too. The Creek, or Queensland recently, they had quite a good standing start series going through. Maybe if they're watching, we might be able to, if they put, maybe a 2-mile one on to get some form leading into the New Zealand Cup, like if a Majestic Cruiser that's already said that he'll travel backwards and forwards, it could be a nice little way of maybe building the race. Building a race in Queensland up to go with the New Zealand Cup. It could be, albeit sort of nearly 2 months out, but still good way of building up a bit of chitter chatter and a bit of talk in a positive light instead of this silly way they tried to do it this time.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and the reality is, you've got this year you'll have a couple of horses that'll start or scratch that are, rating 120s, and they'll be taking on horses that are rating, early 70s, and that is just where we're at now. So I think to get, it's all about pathways, and as well as I do, that horses need pathways, and if you're going to have free-for-all conditions on certain races, you're going to have, basically all of scratch, and you've got 120s taking on 70s, there's not a lot of pathway for some of them. So that's the argument will be over time, is that the quality of the field, which you could argue has diminished slightly anyway, but numbers will fall off, because why would you, if you had one of those said horses at an early R70 rating, want to go up against that off a scratch, free for all conditions?
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree, and it makes it tricky. Tasmania may have a 2 mile race, I think, standing start. The Tassie Championship, I think it is, goes nearly 2 mile too, but nowhere near to the same heights and standard as the New Zealand Cup, and it never will be. I mean, the New Zealand Cup, I remember when Karen won it with Arden Rooney, like the week before we had Michelle Payne be the first female to win the Melbourne Cup, and then Karen goes over there, and that's where it's at. Like it can be spoken about in amongst the thoroughbreds during a spring carnival. That's how great a race this is, and we've got to make sure we can sell it and sell it in the right way.
Well, and it's the greatest betting race in New Zealand, I think, still to this day, is the greatest betting race in New Zealand. And it's probably that one race in New Zealand that drags the, they still put the sweepstakes in the newspaper, and all the officers have a bit of a jackpot and bits and pieces like that. So that's the buy-in we've got to get. Just, it's about being using the pool of horses we currently have to a better way, I think, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yep, no, totally agree. Cam, we could go on all day. We've got a few more things to discuss, but I will say one thing very quickly, mate. Arden Lodge's purple hat is up over the back there, and Timmy White, since I've been able to go the wrong way all the time, Timmy White hat is right there, mate. So I looked after quite a few of the Kiwis accidentally, I must say. I didn't realise they were all there. Rightio, Bendigo the overnight, mate. Big win. Kevin Chapman bred this horse in Olivici for Chris Lang, taking out a Group 2 event and against quite a few moderate performers, it's fair to say, but this horse has really, really hit the ground running and was an NZB graduate. Exciting to hear that a 4-year-old might be taking on the Inter-Dominion class trotters coming up very shortly, mate.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's very good, but it's bred to be good too. To be fair,
yep.
The horse, as you said, by Orlando Vici, out of a Sundon mare. Now, how often do we say that when we see a good performer come out of a trotting family and it's out of a Sundon mare? But he's got some pretty good half brothers and sisters. This horse, the being Stent, obviously, Aria, Ismok was a pretty handy horse here in New Zealand. So it's bred to be good, and it was good. I think it was Chris's first time he'd been back to New Zealand for quite a while and managed to get that horse. So I'm pleased it turned out to be a goodie for him,
It was interesting. I interviewed him on Trots Vision. One of the funny, well, not so much funny things he said, but one of the key posts he said is that the Hopes may have purchased a horse for $100 on the same day. They had $50,000 left in their budget. And that's how Chris got the horse for 51, because once they got to their 50, that was the end of their bidding. So he put in one more bid for $1,000 and got it. That's some of the great stories you can get from purchasing horses at the sales, isn't it?
And that's why that's why we still have auction.
Yep. Yeah, he's charismatic, Chris. I love talking to him. He gives you a little bit of everything. If you watch it, go and have a look at Harness Racing Victoria's Facebook pages. There's a couple of interviews, and he made sure he got his owners a part of it. Other people don't do that. They stand in front of the camera, not Chris, and a couple of guys weren't that keen on it. He didn't care. He just put them there and had a bit of fun and sold the industry. And I can tell you, the Wagon Apollo was on later on, and they got a free ticket into the Inter-Dominion by winning the Wagon Apollo for nephew of Sunoco, and he's going terrific. There's no worries there, beating last year's Inter-Dominion champion Mari Law. It was a great race, albeit a couple of key components galloped at the wrong time and made it a lot easier for him. But Chris was still there to watch that race, a race named after one of the greats of his father. But that's a love he has of the industry, sitting up in the bar, having a couple of quiet drinks, watching those, and then driving an hour and a half home in the middle of winter. So yeah, he's good for our sport, and I reckon it's great that a 4-year-old trotter is going to be taking on the older horses. And I don't think he's got ambitions of necessarily winning it, but he's not against. He may be able to. He really rates his horse, so which is really, really good for New Zealand breeding, mate.
Yeah, and it's shaping up to be quite an exciting series for the trotters too, isn't it? Being back in Victoria will certainly help that trotting part of the series into the Minions, obviously with such a great pool of horses, and a few of them putting their hand up all at the right time. It's going to give some exciting form lines going into it, isn't it?
Yeah, it does indeed. Want to highlight just a couple of horses from Bendigo the overnight. A horse called Hi, My Name is Jeff, bred by Glennis Chamil, I'm going with. Is that right?
Glennis Chamil, yep.
Yep. High class horse, high speed horse.
I think we might have actually sold that.
Okay. We didn't check that one up, but he's a horse going places, 227 quarters there at the end. He's the sort of horse he might end up back in New Zealand for the race maybe next year, because if he jumps on the bunny, he's very hard to beat. He was very, very good. Von Art continues on its winning way. I think it's won now 9 straight or something over here for Emma Stewart and Clayton Tonkin, bred by Stanley Wilson. And then a horse, for some reason, Kate Daddy Gaff, mate, I don't know why, Dad and Dave. And I forget the guy's name. I shouldn't forget his name, but I have all of a sudden the owner. It's a lethal combination with horses. This horse, Dad and Dave, starts at huge odds all the time and just wins. Doesn't win out of turn, but it just keeps winning. It was bred by Paul Jesberg. He's just a lovely horse. That was some of the highlights I saw at Bendigo from a New Zealand point of view. I don't understand. Isn't it funny sometimes you get some stables and they start a lot shorter, which is Andy Gaff's. His horses always start shorter than probably what they should. This horse, for some reason, it was $20 or something again the other night at Bendigo. It's ridiculous. So, and Norm Jenkins is a bloke who owns it. It come back to me, thankfully. And
there's a lethal combination then, the two of them.
Yeah, and they don't, I don't know, it doesn't say short. But one I really did want to highlight to you, Cam, is a 2-year-old that won at Menangle, and I believe this one was sold through your sales. A horse called Blazing Home by Rock and Roll Heaven, bred by Michelle Carson. He's a cracker. He's a cracker, this horse. Dave Kennedy and Jackson Painting train and drive. They're having a good run themselves. They have a good run buying Kiwi horses as well. But he's a beautiful horse. This bloke got high speed and head down. He's out of a better's light mare, and you can see that touch of better about the action, as well as him being by Heaven. They stand up over the ground. He's got a bit of each combination. He's a very, very exciting young horse.
Yeah, and Michelle, she's probably one of our northernmost breeders now, up in Helensville, sort of northwest of Auckland. But again, it's a good family too. When you get back into it too, Capture My Heart is a full sister to Texarkana, so it was quite a good sort. Went to America and did an outstanding job up in America. Won about 27 or 8 up there, and about just short of 800,000. So it's a good family, and I think it was sold at the time at that sale the year before last for 22,000. So just shows you can get a nice horse for not a lot of money. And again, what is it? Nice early 2-year-old winning sort.
Was it sold directly to Australia?
No, it was bought by a fella here, Matt Bowden, Poi Bowden, which a number of people will know, used to be Mark Purden's travelling foreman. Yep. He went out on his own. I think he's actually in Australia now, to be fair. But Poi bought a couple and broke them in and got them going. And I dare say he's probably on-sold this horse, maybe. So there you go. It's made to go round, isn't it?
I was going to say, hopefully he turned $1, and I can guarantee you that the camp that got him now, they'll be super excited with some nice 2-year-old races coming up. And he's in a 2-year-old camp, and he looks a really, really nice type. I encourage people to go and have a look at him. A couple of ones I really reckon the Kiwis should follow is Olivici, and then also Blazing Home. Almost a good name for a movie, Blazing Saddles it was though, Cam.
Was, yeah. Or you getting away home when you're told to, Blazing Home.
It was indeed. I think you got a meeting, haven't you? We've got to get you to. Brecken Farms have released a YouTube video about their farm, and it is very, very well. Make sure you go and check out the Brecken Farms, either Facebook site or their YouTube page. It's on Twitter as well. So well done to Ken and Karen, doing things a bit differently, really up in the market, if you like. And I've been there. I've seen the little forest. I reckon that part's really key for New Zealand history, mate.
Yeah, no, it's a great. We had a great time that day. We got the tour there with Nigel and with a group of Australians. So there's a bit of history about that farm, and they're great custodians of the land, Ken and Karen, and doing a fantastic job for the breeding industry here in New Zealand as well.
Yep, absolutely. We'll keep ramping it up for the breeders, so don't worry if we haven't given you a mention. We'll give you a mention at some stage. We're pretty good at that. As I said, this New Zealand show is proudly brought to you by Haras de Trotteurs here in Australia, but frozen semen available there in New Zealand, including Orlando Vici, the sire of Olivici. Woodlands Stud celebrating 30 years in the breeding barn, and as I said to you Kiwi guys, Sweet Lou and Down by the Seaside both fully booked out, and of course NZB Standardbreds, the #1 sales company in New Zealand, headed up by one Cam Bray. Firstly, Cam, thank you very much for joining me again. Was that a nice little ending for you, mate? Did you like the way I did that?
It did, yeah. I'll give you the. You better send me through your bank account. I'll transfer that wee bit of money to you. We talked about.
No, in all seriousness, mate. Thank you very much for joining me. We're doing it fortnightly at the minute, unless we get some Kiwi stories come up. I will have one coming out during the week. I've got a little story brewing over here. But if anyone over there wants some people, put out, by all means, give me a yell. When does the catalogue start getting sorted out? I suppose it's a little way off at the minute, mate.
Yeah, so how it all plans out now is for the month of August, me and myself and James up north will spend the month going around inspecting all the horses. So if you are a vendor and you have entered your horse, you'll get a call over the next couple of weeks. We'll get in touch, we'll come have a wee look, and then through the month of September, we just do the checking stages of all the engagements and ownerships, etc. And then from the 1st of October is when we cut off. So anyone that has a horse, through midway through September, we'll start editing the pedigrees, and we'll do that for close to a month. As of the 1st of October, anyone that does want to withdraw a horse has to that date to do so before it then costs them a bit of money, because pretty much 1st of October onwards, we'll close the catalogue off to finish the editing, blotting and boxing, and send away to the printer. Now, that is a little bit earlier than normal. We have in the past taken up and including the New Zealand Cup, but basically now with the post-COVID life and freight and air travel, etc., we just can't afford to not have those catalogues in Australia pre-Christmas. As you will well know, Paul, once you get tangled up in the Christmas traffic, they could arrive sometime in March, which is no good to us.
Not last year, 2 years ago. Might have been last year. Doesn't matter, whatever it was. Cam kept saying to me, "Is it there yet? Is it there?" And I said, "No, it's here." And when I went to open it up, it was actually a Kiwi teddy bear which I did set forward back. We worked it out and found it all. But yeah, they'd swapped things over, and this little kid was probably expecting something from her. Nan opens it up, and she gets a box of catalogues, and I got a cute little Kiwi teddy bear. So I reckon
it didn't work either because I didn't buy a horse.
It does indeed. That camera started doing that again. I don't like that camera. I'm going to have to get rid of it. Cam, elections to be on the board of New Zealand Harness Racing New Zealand are open at the minute. Any rumours in there? Is there any chance that someone might be putting their hand up?
I'm going to have I've put my name forward through the club scene to be one of the three that are standing. Myself, John Coolham and Doug Gale are the three electees. So, three of us are vying for two positions.
You excited about that venture?
Yeah, no, I think it's just natural progression. I've had a wee bit to do with different things over the last wee bit, so I wanted to, while I was still heavily involved, to do this. I don't want to be waiting till I'm 60 years old to then turn around and have a crack at it. I think we with the youth wouldn't go astray.
No, I think in New Zealand it's great the way you guys do things over there, that you're able to still work in the industry and the likes, whereas here a lot of the board members, I think that they're not allowed to own horses either. So, actually they might be allowed to own horses. It's a little bit different over here to over there, where you guys can be still fully active. So when does that all close, mate?
I think it's the 17th of this month.
Right, yeah.
So we'll find out by the end of the month.
All right, mate. I'm going to call it a wrap. As I said, thank you very much to Woodlands, Haras, Trotteurs and NZB Standardbreds. I'm going to throw out with the video, of course, if you want to get involved with breeding of the stallions, of course, Haras, Trotteurs are there with, and this will be Orlando Vici. Don't forget, though, with that, the breeding seminars that are on starting this weekend. I do know that there will be a fair Australian contingent over there as well, so you can catch up with Louise Toolman and a few of the others over there. So, Cam, thanks very much, mate, for joining me, and we'll catch up at least in a fortnight, if not next week.
Good man.
Woodlands Stud takes pride in their involvement in the industry, both on and off the track, supporting harness racing through sponsorship from grassroots to feature racing, giving breeders access to world-class stallions who go on to produce world-class racehorses, selling progeny at sales from some of Australasia's strongest families. Harness racing is our passion, and we will continue to strive for greatness. Your success is our success. Share the dream with Woodlands.